It is Wednesday. It is 4:20 p.m. That means it's another brand new episode of Because Cannabis, presented by Wayward Media, live on YouTube. Brand new episodes premiere on YouTube every Wednesday, 4:20 p.m. and the following day on Spotify with video, by the way, and then all your other audio platforms that you listen to. This is Because Cannabis, presented by Wayward Media. My name is BC Wayman. That's Dustin Cava. How you doing today, Dustin?
I'm doing awesome, man. It's been a day of technical difficulties, but it is a day nonetheless, and I'm happy to be here.
I do see you're in a different location. You got a whole different background going on. You got a last minute setup, but you do have something else new on, Dustin. Stand up a little bit and show the people what you know.
What do you think of this shirt?
Coming, everyone. Look at that. We got some merch coming. Our guest today knows a lot about marketing. We're excited to talk with Nate Zeke from iBlissLife, iBliss.life. Got some merch going. Got the Because Cannabis shirts rocking. We debuted them this past weekend, recently when we were at a live event. So Dustin, we do this podcast every single week. We get on here, we talk to tons of great guests. We get in here, we have these conversations, but we're very removed from the situation, right? I'm looking into this camera, right? I'm looking into that. You're looking into your camera. Our guest is down below wondering why the hell he's here, looking into his camera, waiting to talk to us. We're excited to talk to Nate Zeke, one of the most amazing marketing videos I have seen in a long time. I can't wait to break Nate's buds over this one, so to speak. So I'm excited to talk with him. So we spend a lot of time doing this, Dustin. We barely, we'll go months sometimes without physically seeing each other in person. But recently we worked an event, the Midwest CannaFest. We were the MCs and hosts. We had these wireless mics, everyone. We'll put some footage out soon. We got a bunch of footage we recorded. Got a new bit from one of our favorite guests, Kevin Roach. Got some great content there. But we were live in person walking around this cannabis festival. All these cannabis companies, and here we are, us two schmoes walking around in our matching t-shirts, shoving mics, doing live interviews that the whole festival could hear, these little mini interviews, but right in front of them and on the spot. I know you sometimes you like all the interview stuff. How did you like doing it live in front of other people? We've done it a few times, panel hosting. Do you like the live vibe, or do you like this camera recorded sense? Which is your preference when speaking with guests?
I think I prefer this. I think there is something about the intimacy of this, and even though it's public to the world, it still feels private. At that show, it was like you got the guy talking about, you're interviewing next to his competitor, next to the competitor, next to the competitor, and it's a really interesting thing when they're like answering something and then looking over at the competitor.
They're like, our extraction process is number one in the state of Ohio. And meanwhile, exactly. This other guy's like, what are we, like schmoes over here? Like we sell, look, it's no science when it comes to cannabis extraction. Y'all got your trade secrets. We've had enough guests on today. Although we might have a wizard on today because they're doing
I think we might.
I love it. So there's look, the science is what the science is. It's going to change. It's going to evolve. I get you all have your proprietary trade secrets and your IP protection. I'm calling over-rated on all that at the end of the day. But that was probably the best part, is everyone kind of being forced to talk about how cool and how great their company stands out against their competitors in Ohio's cannabis marketplace, with the person right next to them who we then walk to next. And we're like, tell us why you're awesome.
It really was. It was awesome. I don't know. There is something that I will never forget about those scenarios, and I can still see some of the faces on some of the guests after we went to them. So I don't know, man. It was a blast. I'm glad we get to do that. We've gotten to do a few of those, and I don't know, man. It's a good time. It's definitely a little break up to the show, and the feedback we get to meet a lot of really awesome listeners and stuff like that as it is. So I don't know. It's pretty unique and fun.
I am a huge advocate of live. I'll take live any day. I wish we could do this together live with our guest in the same room. Our guest today is currently in Oklahoma right now. Nate Zeke, you just saw him pop on screen from iBlissLife, iBliss.life. Nate, cannabis conventions. I know you're part of them. I know you're digging them. You got to set up these booths. You're right next to your competitors. You're trying to pitch it. Is that a roll up your sleeves and revel in it? Do you feel weird sometimes telling how awesome you are when someone next to you is also telling how awesome they are? Is cannabis cooler? Like, what's the vibe at the trade show when you got to go hawk your wares?
Personally, like my experience with most of the trade shows is everyone's kind of a little tired from the night before and muddling around, and then it's all the after parties. So I try to like avoid MJ BizCon now because people like, you going? I'm like, dude, I don't, all I do is see all the heads and it's a great fun time. But like, does business really get done at these cannabis conferences? I don't know. I mean,
I love that you say that. I really
I
genuinely do.
send people out, but it's like, is it a party? Is it business? Kind of
I
like cannabis.
almost prefer now to just I don't even go to the show anymore. I just stay for the after party. We film a couple of them for a couple clients every year. And it's you can just see the exhaustion. And by day 2 or 3, no one remembers anybody's names. You're just hoping that business card lands in a pile that somehow lands on a desk, but never really
It's
does.
gonna
Kind of
land
used
up
to.
as a filter in a joint, is
I
what
was
it's
just
gonna
gonna
land
say
up
crutch
as.
material.
I mean,
Fucking
that's what
Nate,
it
man,
is.
you're my
Yeah.
Are you
hero.
telling me that I'm not following up and calling back all these
Yeah,
people right
right.
here?
All right.
You need to be ripping a
So
couple
These are
filters
my
off of that bad boy and smoking them. That's the
we
work that
think events do drive the business. We've done a bunch of lounges, and we've got a whole platform that we've built that we haven't announced yet, but really built around the lounge and live space. When COVID happened, we kind of brought it online and did a bunch of like wellness stuff online. But now we're getting back into the live events, and rather than just talk to other cannabis businesses, getting out and talking to the people, we find is invaluable. You're going in, and I think we'll go in. We'll talk about some of this, but I'm in Oklahoma currently. We've scaled farms in 6 states. We've worked a lot on extraction. We can get into that, but it's different everywhere. It really is almost like running an international business right out of the gate. You have got every market has got different tastes, different vibe. We're all the same. We all like the same things, but the preferences, the way you approach people, the way the brand holds itself, totally different in every state. So you got to get out there to the events and mix it up with the customers.
It's exciting. All right, let's do this real proper. Nate Zeke, iBlissLife, iBliss.life. We came across, and we're gonna talk about this video here in just a second, some of the marketing stuff. But let's give just a little background. Give yourself a little background, where you come from in the company, and then we'll dig into magic and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, quickly. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, lifelong entrepreneurs. One of my first businesses was in cannabis in '97, doing some compliance work around Prop 215 in California. I'm originally from Los Angeles, so was blessed to be around some of the early pioneers in that space as far as cultivators and dispensary owners and things like that. When it launched a big risk management career of mine, I was a big insurance broker for years. I come from a family of contractors, went into construction, cleaning up after catastrophes, and then sold my last company in 2016. And there was a lot of exuberance around cannabis. And I had been in it in the 90s a little bit and kind of went back to all the people that had, was involved in that time who were all going full force into, recreational cannabis in Colorado and California. Obviously, the law had just passed. And we were like, gosh, this reminds me a lot of the 90s when everyone was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be legal tomorrow. And we're going to be in all different states as a medical program. And this is how we're going to do it. And, here we are 30 years later. But we definitely saw some big money coming in this space. We saw, Bruce Litton bring in that $3 billion from Canopy, from Constellation Brands. And we're like, why is it not a household name here? Like, what's going on? Like, everyone's trying to get into it. What's actually happening?
Yeah.
And we looked at it and we realized there were some real big, misdirections going on. I think there still are. We can get into that with the legality of cannabis. People do not understand, it seems, that classification of cannabis is decided in Vienna, Austria, by the Narcotics Control Board, which involves 150 countries deciding that, this is Schedule A or 1 or 2 or 3, and that's the deal. It's a cornerstone of international law. A lot of UN agencies were modeled after the international narcotics conventions. It's obviously something that, as the reserve currency of the world, we take very seriously about how we sanction drug cartels and whatnot. So everyone seems to think that this is just going to immediately turn into one day. This is going to cross state lines and it's going to be a free for all. And we don't see that. We've kind of been on this road for 6 years now. We've been going, guys, it's not going to happen. Best case scenario, it goes towards alcohol, becomes state regulated. So we really set out to build a state by state scalable system that could, really build strong local communities. And that's been our goal, is to really, take this movement in plant medicine and bring it to a localized supply chain that can be duplicated everywhere. And that's what we set out to do.
It's really interesting. So I'm curious to hear from you, and you've been through this a couple of times. So Dustin and I are in Ohio. Ohio's been a medical state since 2019.
Yep.
After much to do, we finally have it on the ballot. Obviously, it's going to be voted on this November. We've already got the articles that the Republicans, our governor is very, very, very anti-marijuana. Has made that very clear.
Oh, yeah.
Very clear. Talking about repealing that. We saw stuff like that in South Dakota and Mississippi when they went legal, and how the governorship tried to block portions of it and, fight that. In fact, South Dakota voted both adult and rec, or adult and medical, and only got their medical. They never got that adult use that they were promised. So how do you, when you have these markets, you look at a market like Ohio. So walk me through just your business mindset. If you were to attack it as an adult use, do you worry about medical? Like, what do you look at when you come into a new state, including its tentative legality, right? Like everyone feels it's passing.
Yeah. I mean, I come from a background of running state regulated businesses. So in insurance, we did business in dozens of states. We were regulated individually in each market. Same thing with construction. I'm a general contractor in several states. Like, you are going actually not just to the state, and getting licensed in each place, but you've got local building codes. So very much the same here in cannabis. It's not even like a state by state thing, right? You better understand, like region by region, town by town, what you're doing. I mean, that is a whole different way of doing business. So a lot of people just struggle with that. Not a lot of people come from a background of having to stay in boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
We stay on the medical side. Most of the protection in cannabis, at least our understanding of it, and look, I have friends serving time right now for things that they thought they were doing legally and correctly. So there's a lot of stigma still in this space. There's a lot of stigma about showing cannabis use. We can get into that video, definitely. I'll get into that. But you need to understand that, like, the protection that the appropriations process that the U.S. Congress provides is for a state regulated medical, program. So the states now have kind of got off the reservation and are saying, well, we're going to go recreational and buzz off. We think this is a fractionalization of the law. This is a trend that goes way beyond cannabis. You can see it with Roe versus Wade now. You can see it with gun control. You can see it with how COVID worked out. We used to have a slide in our investment deck showing this. Look, this state by state, the kind of having your own system that doesn't engage in interstate commerce is going on with more and more industries and more and more things. We are just so used to, like, Uncle Sam and what the Fed says. And we better get comfortable that, like, hey, what happens if Mike Pence becomes president next? You think, like, we're suddenly going to have any more push towards legality? I mean, it hasn't happened under Biden. Like, I think everyone needs to be prepared to, be in a state by state regulated system for some time, even if there's a change at the federal level, even if there's some more protection as far as, we expect safe banking to eventually come around. So there might be some, bits and pieces that come together, but most likely you're going to be operating in a fragmented business environment across, So if your head isn't in that game, we don't think you're going to be around. You're only going to roll over all those convertible notes at 20% interest for so long.
Okay. Knowing, it's one thing to see the storm. It's another thing to be able to position yourself to operate and thrive within that storm. When you think about your products and the things that you're developing, how do you structure the creation of those things by a local to local basis?
Great question. Great question, right? Too. And that's what we love about answering that question was really what excited me about the business. Again, I mentioned building strong local communities. We live in this very unsustainable world. We are supply chains all over the globe, right? Burning fuel, burning oil, plastics, transport, all of this stupidity, so that we can race to the bottom and send stuff to China. Like, I mean, and then send back to ourselves. So, the concept of actually, like, producing things organically, locally, having them processed locally, having them delivered to the customers locally, that's amazing to us. We are so excited. I guess when we were thinking about it, to go back to, like, Bruce and like at least this last round of exuberance, One of the things I find that everyone's sick of hearing, like, oh, don't even say it, is he was saying at the time, we're going to build a Coca-Cola cannabis. That was his thing when he took that constellation, you know. And we were like, okay, dude.
Great.
It is funny how it started, though, right? Those were the pitches we've talked with both D'Angelo, Steve, and Andrew a lot in the last.
Oh yeah, I know
bit.
Steve,
So, yeah, we just talked. Steve's he's transitioning to psychedelics. He's all in the.
Oh yes.
He's when you smoke a lot. This is what we realize. You smoke weed for 30 years. Eventually, you're like, I need something more. Anyway, so but you hear that a lot. Like in the beginning, it was the sales pitch of we want to bring cannabis to the big business world.
Yeah, so we're
now big business
flower,
cannabis is a negative, man. Don't be telling people you want to be.
Everybody,
It's so crazy.
Dude, we talk about it internally and we can't say it to anybody, you know. And look, we were just like, you know, for us, it was like, why is there no household name? Okay, there's going to be a household name in cannabis. You know, I could say, name me a hotel company. Be like, Hill, name me a car company, Ford. Maybe a cannabis company. Ask people, they're like, cookies? I'm like, nobody in Spain or Russia knows the name cookies, you know? Like, so there's not a name there. And what is that? What we were interested in about when people were pitching that was we're like, how are you going to do that on flower? Anyone can grow flower. People get good at it. You know, that's how we did in the 90s. We got good at it. And we learned from people that have been growing up in the hills for generations. And it's like, okay, we can all grow this stuff. It's not going to be this giant, you know, industry with just a bunch of greenhouses. So we were interested though in that model. We thought to ourselves, what is it that Coca-Cola does actually, you know, because they don't touch the product. That's brilliant. We don't touch cannabis. You know, I've got some of our new products here. You know, I buy them in a dispensary. Like we don't actually come into contact. But there's three things we do. We source our ingredients using, you know, genetics that are widely available and some of our own. But we have a propagation method that we give growers and say, here's how to do it, and we're going to be able to show you how to grow outside for under $50 a pound and get the terpene profile we want. So we had to set that up, and we had to set that up across the country because there's different climates and different pest control going on. Oklahoma here, the bugs are nuts, you know. So like sourcing those ingredients was important. What was the recipe? When we started down this path, you know, we had no idea. We have a beverage going into the market now. We had no idea, but we're like, okay, it's not going to be flour. Maybe it's pre-rolls. Maybe it's vapes. Like, what is the product going to be? So we really spent a lot of time thinking about that. And then we were like, well, they pay their bottlers in all these different places to produce it. And gosh, that was a shock that was the hardest thing we saw was figuring out the payment systems and how to get the product into local markets. And so, you know, once we kind of nailed like, okay, here are the strains and here's how we get them to grow everywhere, you know, and get moms that like the climate there and build the farms off it. Okay, great. After we bypass the digestive system and get beverages that hit in a minute, and we, you know, I'm sure we'll get into that here in a second.
Yes.
That puts a product that people like really haven't experienced before because people don't want to smoke anymore. And they can't do it discreetly. You know, I used to go on planes with vapes. Nobody knew what they were. You can't do that anymore.
No, everyone knows what your vape pen is. Everyone knows what your vape pen is now, bro.
Oh yeah, I remember 2014 pulling a vape pen, you know, being through TSA, and it pulls out this vape pen and pulls out this rock I had in my pocket.
Now they don't even worry about it though. I actually travel with it. I mean, you travel with it in your backpack now, and as long as you don't put it as a checked bag, they don't even stop it anymore.
Yeah, but I was in Vegas's airport in their smoking section where, you know, people are hitting their normal vapes, and I hit mine, and all of a sudden all the lights went on, the alarm said, they said,
maybe you just got 777s, Dustin.
And
I mean, maybe that's what happened.
Tucking the shit in my crotch while like security guards came in and smelled around, you know. So there's definitely it's getting worse and worse, but it's also getting easier to get off the plane and go and pick up my medicine when I land. So it's I don't know, it's crazy, but it's definitely changing that.
Yeah, it is. And you know, the current payments wires that we have all across state lines. So we also had to figure out, okay, how are we going to hack the payment system so that we can keep financial transactions in the state bound? So there's a lot. And just pay bottlers and move things around. So there's a lot that went into this business plan. You know, you mentioned extraction, and when we got into this, we started with extraction. Started with it. We were like, okay, it's going to go into some finished product. We don't know what the product is, but let's start figuring out the extraction method. And I was getting pitched our new extraction method twice a day, right? Like for weeks. Oh, there's this ethanol system. Yeah, we were messing around with butane and CO2 right next to each other, and like, you know, what's the efficiency and what can we get from the terpenes and all that. There's a bunch of extraction tech you haven't seen. I know you've heard that before. But
Everyone's got their extraction secrets.
Everyone's got their extraction tech. We've got a big line of research going on in that space as well. So there's some exciting announcements coming up there.
I am super excited. All right, we're gonna do this, Nate. So we'll tell you how we came across Nate Zeke, CEO, co-founder of iBlissLife, iBliss.life. You can check him out. Looks like the site's just getting started. It's really interesting. Oops, wrong button. It's really interesting to see what you have going on. So we're gonna do this kind of like back in the day, kind of like a narration. Nate, is what I think we're gonna do right now as we go through this. So, but I want to do, not only we're gonna play this video, but we got to talk about this afterwards because I really feel like you may have just changed the way people.
Yeah. So and let me preview this real quick just to give you a little backstory. When we started setting up the brand and coming out of stealth was when we made this breakthrough. We have a way to bypass the cell membranes and drive cannabinoids right into your system. So we can do it right under your tongue and then down your esophagus and your stomach, the whole nine. So this is very new technology. We call it micro-structured emulsion. It's not nanotech. It's not out there. Again, this is the breakthrough that we're announcing now. And we were doing some social media content and preparing some videos and whatnot. And I said, you know what? We had the camera set up. I'm like, let's wait till the end of the day. And then, mix me a beverage and I'll drink one of these people so that people can see it. So we are doing a lot of these videos now because you just don't believe it. You're just like, dude, whatever, no way this is going to hit in a minute. So I said, set this stuff up and I'll do the video. And then let's look at it. And this was the backstory on the stigma behind this, the internal debates about even showing this.
We'll
get into that. So let's watch the video. Yeah.
We're going to watch this video because we got a lot of questions. Not only that, like we couldn't believe your lawyers let you do it because you get shut down on Instagram these days for smoking cannabis. But I think part of it's
smoking.
Yeah, so we're going to play this live. If you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify video, check it out. If you're listening on audio, make sure you check us out on video.
Dustin? I will say that this is the most exciting product to me of the year, period.
We'll talk about why. Let's play this video. I just saw it was on Reddit or somewhere. It was a video of Tom Cruise being shown like a meme that he was in, and he was laughing uproariously, and 90% of the people felt like his laugh was fake. I don't think, unless you are actor of the year, that your high is fake here. All right, let's play this video, then we'll talk about it afterwards. Make sure we hear it.
And I am going to show you what it looks like to have immediate bioavailability of cannabis. Wow, that's top. So we're just gonna
a little deep though. That's a heavy pour, as they say.
A single shot of coffee and at least 10 milligrams of cannabis.
Is that pure product, or is there anything else in there?
Now we're probably
just we mix it with coffee.
Okay.
With a concentrated coffee, we do.
Go ahead and drink the whole thing. I'm already getting hot.
It's 7 seconds.
I'm already feeling
unpasteurized. The pasteurization takes it.
You can imagine doing an edible, and this takes companies hours. There's like a second rush of it right now. I don't know if we're timing this. Go back to the tape, but I am totally amazed right now. I am the CEO of a company telling you that we created a drink that got me this high and this fast. And 10 milligrams is a good amount of cannabis. I could probably do 2 or 3 and just start to feel it. But like my face feels kind of like it's melting up right now.
Here's where I feel like it's turned. Right there. Yep.
This is probably still going. Now,
this is where you're like, when it's like boom, dude. Like, oh shit.
You're like, I'm past the bad idea, good idea. We are in it.
We're in it. Yeah, 20 seconds in.
The funny thing is that we've done this now at 420 around, and we're actually creating content, and I am totally freaking blazed. Now settling.
Your eyes are starting to really settle into it. You can see the glaze building in.
I'll sit here on camera because I have nothing else to say.
The feet come up. And then it ends.
What's great is there's a longer version, right, where I'm like, yeah, go get a wizard robe on, and I'm sitting there. And I've been doing like investor pitches all day, like filming stuff. So finally, like, I'm like, I get to, get high now and relax. And it was just like, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Well, let's start with the stigma, because that was
Yeah.
the very first thought I had. And I was just reading this article. Of course, maybe we'll get to LinkedIn. Everyone loves the LinkedIn, talk about how their social media is getting shut down, and ours, we get dinged all the time. We don't show, and we talk about people that talk about a product, right? We don't ever consume on the camera, but we get dinged. And so I got to imagine, especially even though it's 100% legal, that your lawyers or people might have stepped in and said, Nate, do you sure you want to put yourself stoned on camera?
And not just that, but this became such an internal debate at the company that we had to bring it to the board of directors. And I was like, all right, like I'm bringing this to the board because it's turned into this much. First of all, there's a real push in our company for plant-based medicine. Okay, so like we do all kinds of stuff with botanicals. We just in our first product here, we were going to go in a direction with coffee. We went with guarana. We felt the caffeine was a little bit cleaner of an experience on the guarana rather than coffee. So we want to do all kinds of things with all kinds of plants, not just cannabis. We feel that cannabis is a very important plant. We think it probably does all kinds of stuff we're just starting to figure out. So like we definitely want to be in the forefront of that medicine. In addition, I believe that changing your mental state is a healthy thing to do. Not everyone does that, right? Like, I mean, there are a lot of like very religious people or conservative people who have been told if you alter your mental state, that is unnatural and you are somehow, producing evil upon the world. So that's a big debate. Some people are like, well, we're trying to be a plant medicine company. If you're just going to go and get high, that's not, important. And I'm like, you know what? I've gone my whole life. First of all, my parents are very anti-drugs. My family is, some of them don't talk to me about what I'm doing. So, I understand that culture. I have spent my years, I've gone long stretches of my life not smoking cannabis. I've gone long, stretches doing it. There are times when I go a couple years without smoking. I'm like, dude, I need to smoke weed. Like, I'm a better person. I have a stressful job. I feel it's more healthy than coming home and having a glass of scotch, which I'll also, I consume alcohol, I consume everything. But like, it's great to have just a relaxing mental shift. I think the same thing about psilocybin. I think this, if you want to go a little further down the psychedelics, some people might take it a little further or a lot. But point being is there was just a original stigma of like, is this medicine? Is this not? Is in getting your head right and having a relaxation experience? People smoke cigarettes. People watch television. People drink alcohol. Like these are behaviors that are pretty rampant in our society. So to pin this on like mushrooms or weed or whatever else other people are doing, even getting into maybe more severe drugs, I don't have that stigma. I'm like, dude, you're in the parking lot and you're doing a nitrous balloon. Guess what? Who cares? It's legal. What are you guys worried about? But that's a stigma to people. They're like, oh my God, I can't. So, I mean, here's a completely legal substance. You drink 20% of it's coming into your lungs right now every day. And somebody wants to hit a balloon and it's like, oh my God, so a lot of it was like, one, do we want to even show ourselves that we can do this? One of the reasons we want to go into cannabis is because we had to show people this is how fast we can inject botanicals and nutrients into your system. And if you want to prove that, if you want to prove it, I mean, we're doing like mass spectrometry essays at big universities on this stuff. Like we are in the research on this. But like, I had somebody ask me like, well, what do you have to test or prove? I'm like, try it, dude. Like just drink it, and you're gonna get high, and you're gonna be like, oh my God, So that was one. Two was then the CEO. Okay, you're the CEO of a company. We're venture backed. We have investors. You're now going to get up there and be hot. And I'm like, okay, well, I run a cannabis company and I do smoke weed. Like, okay, not only that, we're pretty open about in cannabis letting people consume cannabis. So I mean,
it's a weird thing.
Don't try to take a harvest down and don't let people smoke weed. Like, get out of here. It's not going to happen. So it is strange the stigma, and it's also even when people inside the organization are not stigmatized, but then suddenly it's the CEO and they might think we're getting high. I'm like, you guys are probably high right now. Like, what are you talking about? But it was a huge debate. And absolutely, we're doing a bunch of social media work right now, taping these 1 minute to magic challenges with people. And then absolutely, we're going to blast them across all kinds of things and hope to be taken down and squashed by banks and payment systems.
Yeah.
Like, welcome to the world. Let's go. It's cannabis. So if you're not ready for these kind of challenges in the space, like, dude, you're in the wrong business.
And I really don't want to buy from a company where the CEO isn't taking their own products and testing it and understanding it and feeling what happens the day after, feeling what happens in 10 hours. Like the nuances of your product. When you look at the 1 minute magic video, you really think, oh, this is just about getting stoned quick. And the reality of it is absolutely not. This is where you can actually see and regulate your dosage and understand where you're at and where you're going to be in a much quicker sense. And as a patient, I couldn't imagine. It's hard to imagine a world after this product. It's hard to imagine any type of
you have no idea. I mean, like, it is mind blowing to me that I go drink cannabis now. There's times like before bed, maybe I want to smoke some indica, I mean, now, like, I don't want to be stinky going to bed. Like, so now I literally just swish a little syrup in my mouth and spit it out. Again, with our product, you don't even have to digest it. You can just get it, pushed around your mouth.
I'm coming to work for you, Nate. Just understand when we
we're all moving to
Oklahoma. I'm not picking up a joint. I'm actually just drinking or spitting something out. And then, to have that consistent, I do think edibles and that small intestine high are great. What's the big problem with edibles? You just don't know what you're getting into. The consistency, you set it number one, and then two, the dosage, right? Like,
man, I took one the other day. Yeah. It was the next morning. I was higher than when I went to bed. I took like 4 hours before I went to bed, and it was a product from a friend, right? So unregulated, but a rough estimate of so my wife looked at me when I woke up, and she's like, "What did?" I'm like, my eyes were saucers. I'm like,
and this
I'm
is getting
so
better,
high right now.
Right?
That was like 12 hours later.
This is with regulations. Like, I bought a bar because everyone in Oklahoma. Oklahoma is probably, for people that don't know, Oklahoma probably has the highest dosages that they do. The normal Oklahoman and the dosage of cannabis they do in a day is higher than anywhere I've seen. Missouri's up there. There's some spots, but like Oklahoma's taken to another level. So, there's a 2,000 milligram bar. And I look at the COA on it, and it's 2,500 milligrams. I'm like, wait a second, it's a 2,000 bar, it's 2,500. Like, that's a little bit of difference. So I mean, that's amazing to me that even in a regulated market, even when they're like trying to be consistent, this is the inconsistency when you don't control your supply chain, and that's how most of these brands are built. They're buying from other people. They don't have control of the inputs. They're mixing it up, and it's not consistent. And it again, that's better than it used to be. I used to buy edibles from my friends, and you would do one edible and you'd get used to it. And these were like, yeah, super consistent. And then, you'd get a batch where like some of that butter was in that corner of the pan. I remember getting on a plane in San Diego and normal quarter of this little chocolate bar or Reese's Pieces thing. And it hit me. And I was about to scream, and I was flying, 3 times a week. And I'm just on the thing. Don't scream on the plane. No land is trying to put you under arrest, bro. And I was like,
you're like, I can't give cannabis industry a bad name. Here's what I think. And I was talking with Dustin and we watched this video the other day, and I work at the Cleveland School of Cannabis. I teach this entrepreneurial startup class, and part of the final project is they have to pitch a cannabis company, right? And it's like a Shark Tank thing. And we get Dustin watches a lot of them. We do like reviews and, investor feedback. And a lot of them are the same thing. There's a lot of consumption cafes, even though it's not legal here in Ohio, but it's simple, right? And all of them, dosage wise, always pick 25 milligram slushies and this and that. And I think this product, and you mentioned it in there, what you took was a 10 milligram dosage. This product does 2 things for me. It changes the way people think about edible milligram dosage. 2 milligrams is now a legit, like I have a bunch of mints over here, and they're 3 milligram mints. I take like 4 or 5 at a time because I bought them because they're a great deal, but I take like 3 or 4 because I need about 15, 20 to probably feel that. But you have 2 things. You have this instant thing that makes the milligram go way down, and you may have realistically solved a way to make profit at a consumption cafe especially if you can reverse engineer the science and make the high shorter, because the issue is you eat a brownie, you don't need to sell anymore. Beer, you keep drinking. Here, you have a dosage that hits you right away. It almost makes sense that you could then sell a second 1 milligram shot or something like that.
Yeah,
which
and
people
there's
don't think of.
it's the bioavailability, right? And so it depends on the edible you're doing. Is it BHO? Is it just a distillate? Is it a rosin that it's being made from? So there's a lot that has to do with the bioavailability in your system. Our emulsion targets really four membranes, four areas. One under the tongue, so that oral mucosa is the first kind of place that we can bind with those cells. Then down your esophagus. So one of the things is you kind of switch in your mouth, and we can get it down to about 15 seconds. It then goes out of your system a lot faster. Most of the emulsions that are out there and the tech out there is, when you hear this issue of nano, we're talking about shrinking the size of the cannabinoid molecules. So getting them down to a real small size so that your system is flooded with them. Now you swallow something, it gets into your upper stomach lining. There's a solution of much more that can be uptaked into those endocannabinoid receptors in the cells. But then that's where you kind of have this crash, because in that process, you've stopped all the other nutrients and normal stuff that's in your body from also getting into that cell, because again, it's flooded with cannabinoids. So we are taking a different approach. Our emulsion's like driving a presidential motorcade through your cell wall, right? So as soon as it binds to that, touches that cell, it's in your system. So under your mouth, now you're swallowing. So you kind of get that esophagus, and that's why I think at that 40-second mark on the video, usually when I get to about 40-45 seconds is when I see people's eyes go like, I don't feel anything yet. I'm like, and into your upper stomach lining, and then also the small intestine. So you're still digesting our stuff, and that's why it's lasting a while, right? But you're still getting some of that emulsion into your small intestine. So as it gets through your digestive system, you are still having uptake. So that's why we don't, not only do we hit fast, we have a very long lasting effect. Our beverages, depending on your sensitivity, could be anywhere from 3 to 5 hours. We obviously, in Oklahoma are going a real big dosage, 25-50s. We'll be in Massachusetts introducing 5 milligram dosages. We'll probably dial it back a little in Oregon, but probably be like at the 20-40 stage. So again, every state's a little different. We're going to see where the market takes us. We have a good emulsion that can be broken into anything from 2 milligrams. We're working on a woman's health line for menstruation that just has 2.5 milligrams of Delta-9. But it really helps with the uptake of the CBG and the CBN and the other things that we're putting into this for inflammation and things like that. So it's a fascinating product.
Yeah.
There's a lot we do to go make it and put stuff that's into it. And I'll tell you, the consumption lounges are where it's at. We have a system where we'll be announcing soon that actually facilitates consumption lounges. We've done them in several states. There has to be delivery to any address to have it work, because it does involve kind of splitting up the buying and the actual delivery. But man, we were involved in a big event out in San Francisco a few years ago before COVID. Did $2 million of sales in 2 days at a music festival. Wow. And I looked at somebody, I was like, what do we need the dispensaries for? So we always work with the dispensary when we're doing these events, but absolutely getting people to be able to consume it. Wouldn't you be surprised people smoke weed at music festivals? It's just, who knows, right?
There's something about, we've had a couple culinary people on that also discuss like catering to events with cannabis. And it's this idea that you might actually be able to cultivate the story and the mood throughout an entire show with your product, and to dose out 2 milligrams at this point within the show and 2 milligrams at this point.
But you actually feel it.
Huge opportunity for storytelling.
That's why we stepped on the gas. People are used to drinking beverages, right? We're human. We drink liquid. I got coffee here, water, and Charms. Our bodies are built for it. I also think that most adults have tried alcohol before. They get it. If you drink our Charm, it's like drinking a glass of scotch to me. Like, it's about the same experience. If you did a shot of it, you're gonna, like, in a minute or two go, okay, I feel faded now. I feel different. If I sipped on the glass of scotch over 2 minutes, same kind of experience. So same with us. What's interesting to me is it's a very natural way to consume. And I'm a smoker. I like to smoke. I like rolling joint. I mean, like
I'm a joint guy. Well documented. That's my favorite.
Yeah. I mean, so like I still love the plant. I love to smoke. We grow some pretty strong weed, and I usually smoke the trim. And it burns better. And I don't need like to smoke the flower directly. So to have an experience that you can really dose yourself and consume it. And people are like, well, how much should I take? And I'm like, take a half, drink a sip, wait a minute, see how you feel, drink another sip, just to consume it like you consume alcohol. So I do think it's a very novel way to consume cannabis. We made a lot of breakthroughs on the payment side, on the lounges, on the extraction methods we were using, all this stuff. But when we broke through with this micro-structured emulsion, we were like, all right, it's time to step on the gas and get out to market. And we are now launching our first product out in Oklahoma, and we'll be going from here. We thought this was, again, I come from California. I've grown cannabis in 6 states now legally. I think Oklahoma is the future. It's a special place.
We think that we definitely believe that there's more opportunity with Oklahoma than almost any other state. Just the way things are structured, it's one of the most interesting play-by-plays to watch throughout the whole country. I guess at this point, when you're thinking about expanding and you're thinking about scaling to other states, is this going to be something? Are you only doing this in-house? Is it something that as another company, are they going to be able to come to you and say, hey, we have this other,
like a water gummies thing where you start licensing out your
the Kingmaker approach, right? The Kingmaker approach. This is obviously a big debate. It has been from the day we started. I think again, this is my 13th company I've co-founded or founded. I've run some companies into the ground. I've had some good exits, but everyone on my core team, we've all worked at other businesses together previously. So that's very unique. There's a strong core team that we've done startups, we've scaled companies together. We know each other for a long time. My chief partner and I have been friends 30 years. So like, there's a real trust there. And when we went to do this, we were like, what? No more small plays. Like, nobody's doing this. Let's swing for the fences. Like, what would it take to build a household name? So like, that's kind of been our shtick. As we've made these breakthroughs, as we've solved these problems, and as an entrepreneur, we're like, look, here's the problem. We got to find the solution. Let's work the problems. I had no idea how difficult these problems are going to be. We built this big butane facility. Tens of millions of dollars we were involved in. It wasn't just us, but we're involved in scaling it. And we looked at the finished thing, and like a UFO had landed on the ceiling with all the HVAC, and we're like, this isn't going to scale. I've lived in 17 states. You're not going to build these giant butane facilities in like Montana and North Dakota, or let alone South Dakota, or what. There's just not a lot of the same level of industrial zoning. So we were like, we have to find extraction methods that can fit under food processing, so that we can stick these things, at the source. So we have a couple different key devices that support us. One is what we call the cauldron. The cauldron is what basically mixes this micro-structured emulsion. We can put that machine anywhere. It fits in the back of a pickup truck. We plan on scaling each one of those machines with our bottlers in every state. We can do this globally. It's not hard. It's not.
Yeah, you can throw it in a truck, drive it, pull it into the garage of the facility, process, and drive right back out.
And what's even more exciting about that, and we're not ready to announce it yet, but we have done some prototyping and have now made the scientific breakthroughs, and we're scaling a production ready system of extraction that we'll be able to do at the farm. So again, we will be able to use our wands, pull biomass right off the plants, harvest it, throw it in the hopper, have it come out as a crude. It doesn't use, compressed gas. It doesn't use a difficult solvents. Very clean system. So imagine when we get to the point where we can mulch the plants with themselves, and we're getting there. So again, scalable system. We were like, how are we going to build scalable systems? And then same going to market. That's how we stumbled upon the events. We're like, well, we can't advertise. We got all these problems with, using other people's websites or social media channels. Let's build our own. And so we started to build out our own spots, our own meta kind of lounges, and our own system to support the ticketing and the entries and the geolocation on that stuff.
It's
So
just
introducing
really
it to the local, we've really built a seed to sip system, as we call it, to that can be scaled anywhere, not just in this country, but literally anywhere, and do it under whatever zoning's there. Like, not as long as you can grow something and as long as you can like bake something, we can make this drink in your neighborhood.
What do you think? So, two things, I guess. So, inevitably, with this type of product coming out, you're going to see competitors, right? You're going to see competitors.
Yep.
You're going to see overseas go all of a sudden make it super cheap. You're going to see all these things happen. You're going to see all bad ways to make this super cheap, good ways. So, you have that coming down the road. And then you have this, I feel like, this inevitable confrontation with I say the legacy market, but I feel like that's an overused term, with the people. And we have them here, even in Ohio, who are just so about it should be this organic, the dude who grows it in the family. And you have this kind of prepackaged process. So what's your argument?
Look, I agree. We think our process supports those local growers.
And it's the first company that we've talked to that I actually believe wherever you're establishing a base, you actually can bring in other families, other businesses to kind of help you with this process. And
that's the culture that we come from. I mean, again, when I started in cannabis in '97, I was talking to people who had, were pioneers that were growing up in Humboldt and Mendocino, had grown up as children with their parents growing cannabis, have stories about, sheriffs with machine guns in their face at 8 years old. I mean, I understand that system. We grow everything that goes into our drinks outdoors. We've now divested ourselves of all the farms. We've got one farm still left in California, but we now have a propagation technique. We can send out feminized seeds. We can tell you exactly what nutrients to use on them. We can tell you exactly what the IPM is. We have a whole series of videos on this stuff. We've looked at all the different methods. We've tried everything with, plant support, scrogging, not scrogging, everything with the nutrients, oyster shells, friggin' compost teas, go down the list. So we've done a lot of experimentation to be like, hey, local farmer, here's what we need you to grow. And as long as you grow it in these guidelines, again, everything's tested. We got the COA. We know you hit. For us, it's about the terpenes. Most of the drinks that we have coming out, Charm is a very washed out kind of standard base high. And then we've got things coming out for pain, for sleep, for women's health, for fitness, for, getting on the treadmill right away. There's a bunch of stuff we're doing, but it really comes down to actually pulling those terpenes out of the plant. If you're going to do that, full sun makes sense. I don't need to have this crystally bud and grown in some giant facility. So for the local farmer that wants to grow organic, that's what this system is here to build. In fact, the guys who've gone and put all
guarantee sales. It's one thing to start a business and say, I don't know where the fuck this market's going to be in 8 months. Can I sell what I'm growing now? For you to say, you do it my way, under these specs, under this situation, I will buy this shit.
It's a borderline like franchisee, like a Subway.
Buy it. And if we find the right partners,
in the community.
We're
Truly,
working on. Yeah, it is a community system. That is our mission, is to build strong local communities with this. There's no doubt. So
I'm to work for you. I'm calling you after this show.
This is a chance for the small guy. I got to tell you, my thinking in cannabis has become very mystical. So I have seen things, and I have been on the ground. If you look at I track my Google Maps, and the last few years, there's literally hundreds of points of me traveling across the country. So I've done feasibility studies personally in 22 states on how to scale this. I have seen the cannabis market probably just as much as anyone on the ground. People were at home during COVID. I was in my apartment in San Francisco. I'm like, I'm getting out of here. I started driving around the country. I want to go visit all the dispensaries. Let's go, So it is different everywhere, but there are people that have this knowledge and can share this knowledge. And remember, there's nobody supporting us here. So yes, is this illegal? Great. But guess what? It's happening. And, the state's protecting us all. And we can do this. Anybody can do this. There's no commodities market. So when you go to a farmer and you're like, hey, I'll front the cost to buy the nutrients and the soil, and here's the things, and just plant this stuff and handle it. And it's a risk, like you gotta be careful. But you pull this out, you're gonna get paid. We don't have any problem recruiting people, but we don't want to go to the big guys. And I'm not opposed to doing business with anybody. It's just that it makes sense for the craft growers because once they start focusing on the terpene profile of the plant and what the plant can do medicinally for people. The big guys trying to sell like top shelf flower because it looks like it's got a bunch of crystals on it. That's just a totally different game than we're playing.
Yeah, they're playing a numbers game and they're trying to hit tiers, and it's not necessarily.
I don't know what they're doing.
There's no.
I don't know. I have Dustin. I've been watching this industry now every day for years. I just don't understand what these big companies are doing. I don't get it. Like, I don't get why I thought that whole greenhouse in Edmonton was nuts. That where are you going to put all this weed and all that money spent to just tear it down? Like, what the heck? I don't get it. I don't think they have an exit strategy. I think their exit strategy is one day this is going to be
somebody else is going to be me out,
and somebody's going to figure
it's
it
like
out.
Somebody's, and it's bullshit. It's also this notion, we talk about it a lot, of like, I'm tired of when they say we help out the community. We're writing a check to this one local charity at this one event this month. Whereas we scream investment into the businesses. Let someone else who's partnering with you, provide them startup capital to do something you need.
And it's the processors too, right? Like, there's plenty of people that can package and bottle. Usually our bottleneck is the pasteurization. You've got a lot more people starting to pasteurize, and just for people that don't understand, pasteurization makes this shelf stable. So it is a way to use temperature, and we do it for a certain amount of time and under certain conditions that screens out contaminants like CBOT, botulism, stuff like that. So when you have a beverage that sits on the shelf and it's not in a cooler and it can sit out, it's pasteurized. And that means it doesn't need to be refrigerated for a certain amount of time. So that's usually the bottleneck, is we have to find somebody who does pasteurize. So a lot of times it's like a brewer who brews beer, or somebody who makes, a CPG, a consumer packaged good, that's a liquid that they have to pasteurize. And have inherited a cannabis license, or they're interested. So it's coming together. But same thing with the lounges. We try to work with a lot of like independent, small family operated dispensaries. You've got a lot of people that throw events, farmers markets, music festivals, wellness events, astrology, yoga retreats. We've worked with all these people, and there's a lot of very cannabis friendly communities. And when you go to them, just like the farmer, and you say, hey, we can set up this lounge. We check everyone's ID. We check their card coming in. We know who they are. We screened all the products. They're all on metric. Like, we handle it. You don't have to worry about it. There's no exchange of money going on there. Like, most people are like open to it. They're like, cool, I want a cannabis lounge on my party. Let's do it. So working with the small operators, I think changes the world. That's what excites me. I love cannabis. Great. It's beautiful. I freaking use it. I mean, I can't say enough great things. But she is a very prissy lady, and she does not like to be pimped out. And I've seen some things with these big companies that I'm like, dude, no way. So I again, I don't mean to sound nuts here in public, but again, my thinking here has been mystical. I don't know if the mushroom sent the weed in to show us out or what, but like, I've seen some things that just this plant has the opportunity not just to change medicine, but to change how we interact with each other, how we do business together. These regional little supply chains, I think, can be duplicated in all kinds of applications in manufacturing and food products and all kinds of things. So we're really excited about building that, not just building products that help people with specific ailments. There's a lot we do with the natural ingredients that go into this stuff, how we process it so that you do get all natural ingredients, so that you're not getting blasted with heat or chemicals that kind of made this zombie nutrient, because again, your body reacts a lot different from a vitamin with vitamin C you're supposed to be getting than drinking a glass of orange juice.
I think it's pretty clear. Whenever you're ready to tap into that Ohio rec market that's coming this fall, Nate, you ring our bell. We're gonna get you.
Yeah,
we got a festival. Dustin and I are hosting it. We do these festivals. Right. We could use some iBlissLife, iBlissLife products there. Man, First of all, we got to have you back on the show because I'm just getting started.
Yes,
We got to wrap up soon
Nate.
for where we're at, going forever. We've been talking with Nate Zeke, co-founder and CEO of iBlissLife, iBliss.life. You'll find the link below. You got a lot of great things. Obviously, the minute to magic, the charm is there. I have a question kind of before we wrap up, and you mentioned it, and it's something I talk about a lot with people. I think, Dustin, you might be on the opposite side of this. I am a huge advocate of how like CBD markets itself. No one really knows what strains they're buying when they buy the CBD gummies. They know it's relaxing. They know it's dinner time. They know it's, you mentioned it, treadmill time. You are seemingly one of the few people who are pushing into marketing THC as an emotional, as a feeling versus green crack that comes from this, right? You're talking more about the vibe of it, and there's a gray area. You got to be careful with what you market and promise, with the FDA and stuff. So was that a conscious decision? Or are you still?
Absolutely. We consider ourselves a wellness technology company. We think in terms of wellness, not just of physical wellness, but of mental wellness and spiritual wellness. When we start our calls, we're a totally remote company. We have been pre-COVID. We start our calls and we check in. We talk to each other. Like, okay, before we get into business, like, how are you doing? We try to focus on people's total health picture. So emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, everything. We have a lot of research left to do on this plan. And that is one of the unfortunate parts of the system we've had, saying that there is no medical benefit to this. That is ridiculous. I would cite, much smarter, better researchers than Mara Gordon's a great place to start with. Aunt Zelda's in the space. If you haven't had her on yet, I would highly recommend
all the research come from Israel. I mean, there's been
Israel, Ican's work, absolutely. So we may be at the dawn of a new age of medicine with this plan. Where this gets complicated is the regulation. If you have a disease or something that is, a problem, and you've got a symptom, and you are addressing that symptom, and you're saying, well, we're addressing this ailment, you're now a pharmaceutical. You're now regulated by the FDA, and the medical, field comes in for something that's grown out of the ground. And we all know this is ridiculous. I don't think anyone's really getting fooled now.
No, I do think that there is the need.
Vaccine. Come on, we're playing this all. Come on.
There still is that need for that understanding of the drug-on-drug interaction. If you are catering something to a specific ailment, there's a great possibility they're on some other medication or something with that.
Yeah,
to understand how those work, I get that. But at the end of the day, I have the same feelings as what you have.
Unfortunately, it's too bad because we have to do a lot of workarounds and a lot of stuff that we can't publish to make sure that our products are safe, which is too bad. I mean, it would be much easier for us to just go into human trials and really go through the motions on this stuff. And we would, because we want to make sure it's safe and efficacious. But, there's a lot we maybe, have to do in research labs or things that we can't publish, or they're not going to be recognized by the FDA. And what are we going to do about it? Okay, we're happy internally that it's safe, but gosh, wish we could share this stuff, outside the industry. So we have a long way to go with this. Just to bring it full circle, part of it is we got to get rid of the stigma. We have to have, products that work, that people use. It's going to happen. You look at the demographics on this thing. Nobody lives forever. And what's really shocking to me is to see not cannabis now, but to see you can't be on a college campus these days without somebody trying to sell you mushrooms. It's just unbelievable.
I feel like there's a whole second conversation as Dustin and I really
it's getting crazy out there. So just to bring it full circle, there's a lot that we can do with plants and with plant-based medicine. Safety first. We think we have the right package of delivery. We think we have the right extraction and delivery methods from the payments and event spaces. There's a lot of exciting announcements, so stay tuned, and we will definitely come back. And I'm all about this journey. We ain't going anywhere, so it is the Wild West.
I'm ready to drive to Oklahoma right now.
Dude, iBliss is my product of the year.
Fired up.
Genuinely,
We are the
this
first
is it.
franchisees, owners. Just we're putting on record when you're coming to Ohio.
All
Nate
right.
Zeke, co-founder, CEO of iBlissLife, iBliss.life. You
Nate.
can find the link below. Just getting started. Absolutely. If you are in a legal market, you are rushing, especially Oklahoma. You are rushing to get some charm. Is it available now for sale?
It is available for charm. It's just starting to sell in dispensaries in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
All right,
you'll
so
probably find
Oklahoma
it in
City,
Oklahoma
Tulsa,
City.
get down there. Nate Zeke, co-founder, iBlissLife,
Thank you
iBliss.life
so
on
much.
there. Nate, thank you so much for joining us. Absolutely,
You're welcome.
you're coming back in there. Thank you. Take care. Dustin Kava, I am ready to do all sorts of drugs right now. I'm fired up thanks to Nate Zeke from iBlissLife. I am. Like,
That
I'm
is
ready.
not what I got out of it, but I
Oh,
will
no.
fucking say,
You're sure? That's
Nate,
what I took.
this is my product of the year. This is hands down the most exciting thing for me. It beats the nebulizers. This beats everything I do in
We didn't
glass.
get the
This beats-
nebulizers today.
there is something with this that I just think is it was a problem that hadn't been cracked before, and I just am so fucking stoked to see this thing through, to see him kick some ass. So
Well, we're
this
like
is awesome.
90
What a
episodes
great
in,
show.
and this is one of the most excited you've ever been after talking to a guest. After we're pushing on episode 100 here. All right, everyone, we are getting to episode 100. We're only like 10 episodes away. Hopefully, get one of those big name guests going on. Check us out. That's in about before the end of this year. Follow us at MeetWM. Wherever you are socially, as long as our pages are still active. Wayward.media is the website. Because Cannabis on YouTube. Brand new shows every Wednesday, 420, Spotify, video, and all that other good stuff on Thursday. Thank you, everyone, for this week. Check out all the links below. Plant Saved My Life podcast, Raven Ariola. Lots of great
check out
stuff
Raven.
coming. Lots of great stuff coming. Take care, guys.